Donald Trump is, in a way, like the Lannisters from Game of Thrones. He's evil, he's cruel, he does terrible things.
Blonde.
But the one difference between the Lannisters and the Trumps is that the Lannisters always pay their debts. Donald Trump, not so much. And now we know the extent to which he failed in, well, he failed in many of his businesses, but certainly failed when it came to the Trump Tower in Chicago. And then strong-armed Deutsche Bank and other lenders into forgiving his loans. So the Trump International Hotel and Tower in Chicago became another disappointment in a portfolio filled with them. Construction lagged, condos proved hard to sell. They were going for $4 million each, by the way. Retail space sat vacant. His lenders have forgiven, though, about $287 million in debt that he failed to repay. The vast majority was related to the Chicago project. So we all know that if we decide to take on a loan, we need to have collateral. So if we decide that we're gonna default, we're not gonna pay the loan back, the lender can go ahead and take whatever property that you've put up or money you've put up as collateral. That didn't happen with Donald Trump. The collateral in this case was the Trump Tower in Chicago. And not only did Deutsche Bank forgive the loan, they also refused or failed to take ownership of the building. And it's because Donald Trump threatened them with lawsuits. Let me give you more details. Big banks and hedge funds gave him years of extra time to pay his debts or repay his debts. Even after Trump sued his largest lender, accusing it of preying on him, the bank agreed to lend him another $99 million, more than twice as much as was previously known, so that he could pay back what he still owed the bank on the defaulted Chicago loan. But of course that didn't happen. Now, first of all, let me just say, if any type of loan is forgiven and you don't have to pay that debt back, it is considered income by the IRS because you just got money that you don't have to pay back. It's considered income, you have to pay taxes on it. Well, it appears that Donald Trump did not pay taxes on that forgiven loan, and that's part of the investigation that's currently happening by the New York Attorney General. They're auditing his finances, they're trying to figure out what happened. He was supposed to pay taxes on it. But it does appear that his other businesses took a hit, and he suffered so many losses that he was able to deduct that, and he might not even have to pay taxes on that giant sum of money that was lended to him and that he failed to pay back. So I have more details and it's infuriating, but Trump says that what he did was really smart. And to be quite honest with you, if you can do this and get away with it, why wouldn't you? It's just that the system is very different for average people like us. For people like Donald Trump, all you need to do is threaten a lawsuit, and these hotshot bankers tuck tail and run away. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, the amazing thing is that you'd be threatening a lawsuit where you'd bring lawyers that you inevitably wouldn't pay for their services either. But for some reason, they keep defending him even though they don't get paid. I don't understand how.
Sometimes they end up in prison because of Trump.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, none of this makes any sense. None of these rules. It's not like this is different as a matter of scale from the things that you can get away with if you're poor, working class, whatever. None of this exists. You don't get forgiven. You don't get forgiven like overdraft fees. 15 years ago, they wouldn't do that. But it seems like it's that thing like Eddie Izzard used to say about murder. Like once you've murdered a certain quantity of people, it's like we just can't comprehend it anymore, and it's not a crime at that point. Same thing for the money. You don't get forgiven a $100 debt that you owe, but if you can somehow jack it up to $100 million, then suddenly that's a thing that you can just not do, and then you owe tax on it. You don't pay those off. You don't do any of these things. All of these are crimes theoretically, but not really. I mean, none of this is shocking. We know that rich people get away with murder constantly. I just don't get how Trump has gone from crime to crime to crime, so many that we can't even afford to put a full hour into delving into it, and he just gets away with it and apparently is totally fine.
Right, and what he does is he just threatens lawsuits, which this does point to a flaw in our justice system, and I'm not quite sure how to fix it or mitigate it in a way that doesn't hurt the average person, the average American, anytime you have conversations about reforming, like tort reform, stuff like that, it ends up taking more and more power away from average people who have been wronged by either a company they worked at or by a corporation, whatever it is. What Trump understood was that Deutsche Bank did not want to go through a legal battle with him for literally years. He's known for dragging out these legal battles, and to be sure, once Deutsche Bank started demanding their money, Trump decided to file a lawsuit against them, and the lawsuit's insane. The suit accused Deutsche Bank of engaging in predatory lending practices against Trump. He sought $3 billion in damages. I mean, if you look at the terms of the deal or of that loan from Deutsche Bank, I mean, they bent over backwards for him. To refer to it as a predatory loan is unbelievable, it's ridiculous, but it didn't matter. They knew that it was better to just try to settle this, make some sort of agreement as soon as possible instead of bleeding money during a legal process. They don't want to go through that process. Trump knows it, and so he exploits that to get them to not only forgive hundreds of millions of dollars in loans, but also to allow him to keep ownership of the Trump Tower in Chicago. Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah, and this is a cautionary tale, by the way, for the many people. And I hate to burst your bubble or whatever, but the people who are like, Trump is, let's say Trump loses and he actually leaves office, then these lawsuits are going to be waiting for him. Yeah, they will. And they're gonna be waiting and waiting and waiting because he's been being pursued for literally decades for all of this. And I just don't stake your future hopes on him spending a moment in jail or even paying a big fine or anything like that, because it doesn't look like that's ever gonna happen.
Yeah, and also who would put him in jail? Democrats? Are they gonna prosecute him? No, of course not, no. I mean, look, luckily he is being investigated. The New York Attorney General is one example. But we've seen how he's weaseled his way out of almost every situation, and it's infuriating. And he has this ability of taking his failures and twisting it into a success. So in response to this story, he tweeted, "As a developer long ago and continuing to this day," you're not a developer, homeboy, you just slang your last name to buildings. Yeah. But anyway, the politicians ran Chicago into the ground. I was able to make an appropriately great deal with the numerous lenders on a large and very beautiful tower. Doesn't that make me a smart guy rather than a bad guy? No, you didn't make a great deal. You stole money. You're a deadbeat, he's a deadbeat. And I don't refer to average people who are falling on hard times and are having difficulty paying back their debt. No, this is not a comment about them. This is a comment about a man who inherited $413 million from his daddy and then proceeded to go bankrupt 6 times and proceeded to completely refused to pay back his loans. That's what he's known for. Let's take a look at this fun chart that the Financial Times put together. It shows you all of the debt that Trump has taken on, $1.1 billion debt pile, unknown creditors, Vornado partnership. I mean, you just look at these figures, it's insane. And lenders kept giving him money until finally in America, they're like, no mas, we can't. And then he went to Deutsche Bank, which was trying to really, establish itself in the United States market. Well, you got played badly. And so.
But the economic elites are the intelligent ones. Trump, the people in charge of Deutsche Bank, they're all just smarter than us. That's why they're successful. They make great decisions.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.